Finally catching a bid is the NASDAQ in here. We finally got that rotation back into memory and chip stocks. If you watched our video yesterday, you would have heard us say that, we were probably going to get a green gap up, just not sure how that much that's going to be. Probably a green day on the day. And then obviously we just kind of surpassed our expectations in here today. Nice open. We had a nice little run from 9:30 to about 10 a.m. And then basically everything just kind of stayed elevated from there. And then obviously as market ended, then we also had Amazon and Apple earnings coming. And it looks like everybody is kind of favoring to the upside in here as far as after hours. So we're going to see what happens overnight in here. But all in all, we'll take a nice little NASDAQ pop in here, bringing the whole market with it. And let's be real in here. The SPOOs, we're not going to let a 200 handle drawdown just kind of fizzle out, right? Obviously, they were going to try to buy that up and catch it somewhere. That's kind of what happened in here as we went into open today. And then that's how you got that big, nice gap up in here. So congrats to all who got in on those lows yesterday and then rode it out until today. So going forward, what are we looking at? We're going to look at three different stocks in here. The first stock we're going to look at is going to be DDOG in here. We do have earnings coming up next week. So what we're focusing on in here is going to be this high point right in here, 278. That's what we're going to be focusing on because we're going to try to find where our volatility is going to be lying at beyond this. So if we keep on getting a climb into our earnings next week, the volatility, it's got to make up its mind, right? Because basically, more or less, the moral of the story is stocks go up, volatility starts to collapse. But when you get a lot of hype and a lot of skew to the call side in here, like we are getting in DDOG in here, then obviously the volatility is going to expand as we start to climb higher. So if we get up to 278 by next week or we get higher, the question is, where's that volatility going to be? And then where is our overall skew? Is it finally going to shift or is it going to stay elevated to that call side to where actually if you get a drawdown, and a pretty large drawdown, that is, your volatility will actually collapse in here. So that's kind of the overall question that we're looking at in here. And that's only because we do have an earnings catalyst coming up next week. It's going to be August 6th. So going forward, we're watching that 278 outside of there. Nice whole numbers, 280, 285, etc. To the downside in here, we're looking at 249. And then below that, you have that 9-day EMA sitting right here at 243. Outside of that, we're looking at 224. So almost 2% up on the day is DDOG. So we're going to see what happens as we continue into that earnings. We're also going to take a look at Moderna here, speaking of earnings, and then also everything that's going on with Fauci. And we do have earnings coming up tomorrow morning pre-market. So obviously we can't do anything about this right now as we're making this video. But all in all, up about 6.5% on the day. We're trading just below 58. To the upside in here, that 9-day EMA is something that we need to watch. That's going to be at that 59.68 level. Outside of that, we're looking at 64 and then 71. To the downside in here, we are going to be watching right here at this lower trend line of this overall structure, about $50. Outside of there, we are going to chalk that up to right around 46 and then that 42 mark, which is kind of where your 50-day SMA is sort of lining up with right here. So we're going to see what happens with this overall earnings report. We're going to see if consumers actually care about what happened with Fauci and things like that. Obviously, you know how traders are. So they're always going to bring something to kind of go against or with whatever they're trying to talk their books with, right? So we're going to see how that affects everything as we continue throughout the end of July in here with our last trading session. So we're going to see how that is going to affect Moderna in here. Last stock we're going to look at is going to be Biogen. Now, this is a stock where your options volume is relatively low compared to itself in here, but we are going to look for a somewhat of an inverse correlation in the with the overall markets in here. You can see that we're down in the red on the day while everything else just kind of climbed. That could be due to overall volume. That could be due to kind of rotating back into those overall chips and memory stocks. But we're going to see what happens in here in Biogen. Is something to kind of keep track of, because if we can get a nice clean break over this 209 in here, then there should be nothing really stopping us to get back into these 220s. That's going to be close to up here with this upper trend line. If not, if we get a rejection in here, which it looks like we're struggling with so far this week, then obviously we're going to fizzle back out down in here to those 203s and then the 202s. So your expected move is not very large in here in Biogen as compared to DDOG, which is kind of the complete opposite, right? You have options volume, you got volatility. Biogen kind of the exact opposite of all that, right? So we're going to see what happens in here in Biogen, what type of correlation is going to help us out in here, and see what kind of volatility we can get for our overall expected move. See if we can get a nice expansion in our expected move or a nice collapse in here. So we're going to see if we can take advantage of that. Either way, we have one more trading session left in July. It's been a crazy week so far. We're going to see how it ends up. I would say it's going to be even crazier tomorrow because now levels are elevated. Apple's down after hours with their earnings. Amazon's up after hours with their earnings. It's going to be a battle to see how the NASDAQ's going to respond overall to these, because now you're kind of 50-50, right? You're half and half everywhere with your earnings, that is, as far as pulling back and then going up. So we're going to see what happens in here. If we get a rotation out of those chip and memory stocks again, watch out because it could collapse yet again and the floor could fall out of everything. The spies have to worry about that 743 resistance. There's a lot going on in here. So if we get a nice gap up in here tomorrow morning, then we should probably just kind of stay elevated and nothing's really going to happen maybe until end of day. If we can't reclaim those levels, we get a little bit of a gap down in here, then it kind of all bets are off. Just going to wait, hold on and see what happens in here. So let's kind of just play this thing as it comes to us, let everything come to you, and then go for a ride here on the last trading session of July. All right, guys, if you like this video, make sure to check us out on all of our social media. We also have a Discord service if you are interested, and you can find all of our socials in the description below.